It's finally time to actually tackle the dark matter test PC. And yeah, this is gonna be an interesting one because we've got a lot of pretty awesome hardware. We're doing a custom water-cooled loop in a custom case that we built ourselves. Well, we didn't build the whole case from scratch. We just modded the heck out of it. And yeah, so sit back, relax, and enjoy, because I recorded somewhere around 4 hours to build this system. So yeah. This has been a saga that started with just a case that was slightly ill designed by Thermaltake. And over the course of the last few months, we've been assembling essentially an arsenal of parts to build the ultimate test system. So today we're actually building it. We've modded the case, we've got everything that we want to do, and yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one because let's just say I got a lot. So let's go ahead and run down what we've got, because it's an interesting system and there's gonna be a lot of things that I would actually kind of want to explain why we went with them. So dark matter is actually a name that was suggested by a member of our community here, which I liked so much that I decided to keep it. The entire build is based around the Thermaltake Core P3, a case that is in many ways awesome, and in many other ways, not so awesome. It can be used as a test bed, but not with a radiator, because then the radiator would be blowing down or trying to suck air from the bottom of the test bed array. You can use radiators up to a 420 millimeter, but not if you want to put the glass on and use the standard radiator mounts. It also had an interesting paint job that really wasn't the best in places and had actually a lot of defects, which unfortunately did result in me wanting to repaint it. So what we have here is an extremely modified Thermaltake Core P3. We've repainted the case to a charcoal gray, which we had to go back and sand later because of the way that I actually used the primer. I ended up with an extremely rough finish. The new result is a slightly weathered charcoal gray, which I actually really like. We also created an interesting radiator bracket for the front of the case. That way we can actually get a nice 420 in there without having to sacrifice the glass. That being said, there are some other oddities that I went with entirely because this is my test system. This is my system that I'm going to be testing GPUs and CPUs in the future. One of those oddities is I'm actually going to be using soft tubing for the first time ever on this channel. And for myself, ever. I've never actually used soft tubing before. And I've heard it's actually much easier than the hardline tubing that I ended up using in Supernova. The rest of the parts are pretty standard for me. We went with an X570 motherboard because I actually really wanted to build our test system around AMD. Mainly because that is what you guys are watching on this channel. We are a very AMD centered channel, so I figured might as well make my test system completely different than any other tech YouTuber that I actually watch. We actually went with an X570 motherboard because we really wanted to have all of the features AMD can possibly offer. And inside that motherboard is actually going to be a Ryzen 7 3700X. We picked this processor because it's actually a really good kind of price to performance and actually has slightly better gaming performance than the Ryzen 9. Mainly because the less cores it has, the easier it is for it to stay under control when being hit by thermal load. It also has slightly higher boost clocks when overclocked, and since we are water cooling on an X570 motherboard, we're gonna be just fine. The motherboard in question is an ROG Crosshair Hero 8. Yes, pretty much one of the most expensive motherboards you can actually buy for this platform. And from what we've actually seen, it's kind of awesome. It's got a start and stop button, slow modes, all sorts of features that honestly, as a test system, it's gonna work out pretty well. For RAM, we actually have 2 sticks, 8 gigabytes each, 3000 speed, Delta Rs from Team Group. I actually have never used Team Group memory before, but it looked pretty good, and the actual build quality on them's not half bad. For our power, we've got a pretty nice 850 watt power supply from Corsair. Now, I've used Corsair power supplies a lot, and I continue to use them because I actually personally love the quality, and I've had not a single one of them completely crap out on me. So I honestly know that this unit's going to be great, and it's actually super new because like we are in the middle of a PSU shortage, and I somehow nabbed this one before a bunch of them sold out. We actually have a couple hard drives that are actually gonna be in the system. We've got a Western Digital SATA 3 NVMe drive that we're actually gonna be using in a couple videos for testing purposes against an M.2, and we're also gonna be testing it outside of the system as like an actual thumb drive. So if you're not subscribed, get subscribed for that. We also have a 500 gig SanDisk SSD that I am going to replace probably sooner rather than later with at least a terabyte, mainly because that's going to be our game cache specifically for testing. There's pretty much nothing that's going to be on this system that's not related to testing. As mentioned earlier, we have a 420 millimeter radiator that is going to be used in the front position that we created on the Thermaltake P3. We have our pass-through fittings, which are also through EK, and all of the other fittings are EK as well. We also have an EK pump and reservoir combo. This one's actually a bit older, and I'm gonna have to actually dig through my receipts to get the name of it because they honestly don't make very much sense. But the bracket that I am using for it is actually brand new. It's actually the offset bracket that EK just came out with. Our water block is actually an EK Velocity nickel-plated quantum water block for AM4, of course, and it is honestly pretty nice looking. I've used the Velocity blocks before. I actually have one in Supernova, but this one takes the cake on appearance because it is honestly a beautiful, beautiful piece of water cooling technology. GPU wise, just for now, I'm going to be throwing in my old GTX 1080. Why? Because it will actually allow us to get up and running and actually in Windows and start, tinkering with stuff. I do want to stress that this is a test system, and the hardware that is inside it, unless specified in the test, will change. So we're probably going to be testing a 5600 XT next on the channel, and that's probably going to end up in the system next. But for now, just because I really want to get it up and running, we're going to be doing a GTX 1080 Founders Edition that I got during a GPU shortage. Man, I need to stop buying parts during shortages. All right, and I think that pretty much covers it, Oh, actually, just kind of a side note, we are going to be using some custom cable extensions from HHorse because I went off of Bitwit's recommendation, and I actually kind of like it. They feel very similar to cable mod. So, yeah, let's just say they are way higher quality than you would expect. All right, but that's all the parts. You've seen all the B-roll, you see how it looks. Let's build the system and then get into Windows and talk about everything, because this is gonna be an interesting little beast. So let's just get into it. as you can see, it is actually a pretty awesome system. Very different from Supernova, which is my completely liquid cooled PC that I've got right there. In fact, dark matter's right there. The white and black actually looks quite striking, and I actually like how it looks quite a bit. And the soft tubing actually is a lot nicer than I thought it would be, since there were actually no leaks or loose fittings. In fact, there are a couple fittings that I can tell aren't as tight as they could be, but they just don't leak because of the way that the tubing actually grips onto the bits. That being said, I'm not actually 100% happy with how this PC came out. There are things that I want to change. In fact, actually, there's one more mod that's going to be happening on this case where I'm going to be adding an extra radiator. I have another, I think it's a 280? Yeah, it's a 280 millimeter radiator. Now I'm going to actually try to position at the top of the system. And I'm going to be doing this by using another bracket that I actually have that I can actually cut down to size and make it work, hopefully. That all being said, this is pretty nice. Like, the actual build itself is pretty clean, and I actually don't hate how it all came out. In fact, the more I look at it, the more I think, you know, maybe I'll keep it this way for a little while. But I am a little disappointed that the parts with the routing plate didn't work out, so I really do kind of want to replace that with a distribution plate. All in all, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, you can leave a like, comment, subscribe. I do content like this all the time, and of course, you will be seeing this system rather soon, because our first test video where we're using our test PC is actually going to be coming up rather shortly. So thank you guys again. Wolfie, out.